page 131, Inset Cap Sleeve, which is illustrated here in diagram 13 in the flat drawing or the working drawing there in the center of the page. You see it's a small little sleeve. That's what we call a cap sleeve. And you can see the diagram below it is going horizontally across the page. There's the construction there on the left, and then the second part of the construction, and then the pattern piece. So we're going to just read her instructions. So 13, there's only a few. So this one is, in some ways, it's only a few the instructions. It's a little tricky to get it situated and to sit perfectly, but so Inset Cap Sleeve, she says trace short sleeve. So what she's saying there is you don't necessarily need to trace the whole block. I have, but you know, we're only going to be working up here. So if you want to trace just to the elbow line, that would be fine. The next thing she says is lower sleeve head 2 centimeters. So we're looking at the sleeve head. We have to know what that is. Up here is what we call the sleeve head. And we are going to lower it this time. So we can take the sleeve head down. That does make it a little easier to sew. So I think I'll just read through all our instructions and we'll go. Then we draw in the depth of the cap sleeve as shown. So she's showing us this here. We copy what she does there. And then divide into 4 sections. Cut out. So we'll trace and cut it out. Open to lower line is straight. So that's what we do there. We cut it and we spread it till the bottom line is kind of straight. So first things first, we're going to just lower it by 2 centimeters. That's full scale. We're going to come down 2. And we're just going to blend that in, back in to our sleeve head and create a kind of lower. And then if you want, you can wiggle that out so you know that's gone, the original one, because it would be hard to remember which is the correct one when you're just working in pencil the whole time. So we're going to look at this diagram here, our construction. We've done the first step. Now we're going to draw in the shape of the sleeve. So see the way the shaping is going up, kind of like this, and back down, kind of following the shape of that, which would make sense because we want it to be kind of similar shape, size all the way along here, because that's what the end result is. Now, under the arm, which is here, is a bit narrower, and this is a bit bigger, you know, if you look at it. So I'd say this one here is about, you know, 6 centimeters, 6 to 8 centimeters there, and under the arm, you know, is probably only 2 or 3 centimeters there. What I'm going to do is under the arm it's tricky, it's not nice, it's not good to sew, it's hard, it's difficult to sew, and it's difficult to draft for a very small bit here. So I might make it just that little bit bigger just for the sake of our learning and our drafting. So I'm going to go ahead and come down 4 here, so you guys can come down 2. I'm going to come down 8. The sleeve itself might be a little bit smaller than 8, but 8's still quite small. 8's like that. You know, it just makes our diagram a tiny bit bigger, which is a little bit easier to work with. So I've marked in 8 down. Now that's from our new position. Do you know, we've come down 2 first of all, and then we've come down 8, and then that's 4. So now I'm going to, you know, sort of sketch a line here, a curved shape like she has. You're kind of following this, do you know? In terms of her instructions, the next bit after you've done this, the next line is divide into 4 sections, cut out and open it till lower line is straight. So if you look there at the second diagram, there's 4 sections, but for some reason this diagram is incorrect. She's put, you know, 6 sections there. So essentially, The last lines that are coming from that notch point, we don't do. So there's kind of a line coming down from the notches. But you just see the notch in the second one, and there's no line, there's no cut or anything. So I think it's just an error on the printing. There's quite a few errors in her book, so I kind of tell you about them as I diagram. So fortunately, what works typically is if you go from the balance point, which this is this notch, to the center on the front, and the balance point to the center on the back, and you take the halfway position there and there. That gives us 2 cutting lines, and then the center one is a cutting line, so that's a third, and then so that will give us our 4 seconds. Slowly I'm going to go from here to here, my notch, for me that's around 10, so I'm going to come out 5 and 5 and draw a line, and that's a cutting line, you know. And then come from my notch here, it's close to 10, it's just under 10, so I'm just going to... Okay, again, scissors on these lines, and the scissors going in that direction, meaning we're going to cut these up, and we're going to spread it out. So the cap sleeve comes out a little bit more. It's essentially a little bit flared. It comes out a little bit. It doesn't come down. If it just came straight like that, it catches on your arm a lot when you try and move. I don't know if anyone's ever had a cap sleeve like that. I had a garment like that, and I had to stop wearing it. I used to just like cut across here. Okay, so once you've got those lines in, you trace this little section off. It's only a little small little section.
Underneath the lower line of the sleeve head, put it in notches.
So again, we're starting with a straight line, because we're going to straighten this off. We're going to cut this sleeve open in these 3 spots, which will give us that little bit more space. So I start with a straight line, and also a perpendicular line then in the center, which will be like our straight of grain again, and also it's our starting point, so we know to center it. So here I go, I have my piece here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to place that along there. That needs to be longer. It's a little tricky. So what I'm trying to do is get this point here along this line, and this point here and this point here along those lines. Okay, so if you look up for a sec, so at the moment, if I was to leave it like that, it's cutting off quite a lot here. I think it might be too much. You see the way that straight line, that means I'm going to lose that much of there, and I'm going to lose all that. Now there is going to be give and take. Essentially the underneath line, like we could almost do this and then do a line on top of it, but it's easier to put the line on first. And then as we can maneuver this a bit, so if I don't like the look of that, I can pull this in a little, and that will raise up a bit, do you know? And it just, to me, I'm a little happier with the way that looks, because there's a bit of, like, I'm going to take a bit off here and I'm giving a bit there, so my principle of give and take seems a little bit better in that position. And now I'm going to look at this side. This looks a bit awkward, doesn't look like the right shape, so again I'm going to pull that in, so that, you know, they're not going to be exactly even, but that was really odd looking. That's not right at all. So I'm getting it to sit. I'm actually just looking by eye that these are roughly the same. If you measure them, they're not exactly the same, but this now point is on that line, this point is on this line, and these are kind of roughly even, and there's a little bit of give and take, so I'm kind of happy with that. That's my cap sleeve. That's me opening it out and keeping it straight and perpendicular at the center. And tracing it off is simple enough. It's tracing around. Again, we're blending, smoothing these points, positions, and blending. This is just, you come along with that straight line, so you ignore the bits that are down and the bits that are up and all the bits in the middle. So you just get this nice straight line along the bottom, and then you blend this, put in your notches, your grain, and all your labeling. So here we have first construction. We trace this bit off, cut it, spread it, got a nice straight line along the bottom. That's our second construction. And here's our pattern piece down at the bottom. Just want to so it's more clear. Our pattern piece where it's traced off along that straight line, and I smoothed off this little bumps that are on the top there. Made sure my notches were in there, my straight of grain, and my labeling, and my seam allowance. So that is the inset cap sleeve step 1, 2, and 3.